It began like any ordinary night in early November. The northern sky was calm, almost predictably cold, and the winds carried the faint scent of frost across the upper Midwest. Residents of Montana, Minnesota, and northern Wisconsin had gone about their routines, unaware that something extraordinary was about to unfold above them. Around 10:17 p.m., the first reports began trickling in, a faint red shimmer across the horizon. People initially assumed it was a photographic error, a trick of light in the cameras capturing the night sky. But soon, the posts multiplied. A woman in Fargo uploaded a photo, then someone in Duluth, then Anchorage. Within hours, social media feeds filled with images, videos, and short clips depicting a sky alive with unnatural color greens, violets, and an unexpected crimson that seemed almost deliberate, almost purposeful. Scientists spoke cautiously. They attributed the phenomenon to a geomagnetic storm caused by a solar flare days earlier. Such storms were not unheard of, they said, but the color and intensity of this particular display were atypical. Those in the northernmost observatories reported seeing unusual streaks within the aurora, patterns that seemed deliberate rather than chaotic. Straight lines, arcs that appeared momentarily, and bursts of light that followed no discernible natural pattern. Observers described the aurora bending south, moving in ways that defied conventional understanding. Satellites in orbit detected unusual interference, some experiencing temporary system resets. Navigation systems on aircraft were affected, and a handful of pilots reported that their compasses and altimeters flickered unpredictably as they flew beneath the northern lights. While the world marveled at the display, a smaller, quieter story was beginning to emerge, one that involved a missing data analyst named Mark Whitman. Whitman was employed by a private atmospheric research firm contracted by a government agency. His job involved monitoring and analyzing satellite telemetry, particularly from experimental sensors observing the upper ionosphere. For months, he had been studying anomalies in electromagnetic activity that corresponded to auroral events. Colleagues described him as meticulous, almost obsessive, but highly respected for his ability to connect seemingly unrelated data points. On the evening the red aurora appeared, he vanished. Whitman's disappearance initially drew little attention. Agencies and law enforcement accepted his absence as a personal matter. His apartment was left untouched, personal items undisturbed, except for his workstation, which showed evidence that he had been attempting to access classified satellite feeds in the hours before the aurora. Logs revealed encrypted communications to an unknown recipient hours prior to his disappearance. These transmissions were flagged internally but were never publicly acknowledged. The trail went cold quickly, but digital footprints suggested he had uncovered something his superiors did not want traced. Meanwhile, across northern states, civilians continued to report strange phenomena. In rural Minnesota, a retired couple claimed their old shortwave radio began emitting a rhythmic pulse, low and deliberate, at precisely 5-second intervals. It repeated continuously for 30 minutes before cutting off. In northern Wisconsin, a group of hikers described a sudden electromagnetic hum that made their watches and phones malfunction, all coinciding with the sudden appearance of a crimson arc in the sky. Even emergency services reported receiving bizarre 911 calls from citizens who described seeing lines of light stretching like pathways across the night sky. Yet no immediate danger was present. These reports, though isolated, formed a pattern that suggested something beyond ordinary geomagnetic activity. At an observatory near Barrow, Alaska, cameras captured the aurora in high definition. Analysts reviewing the footage noted a series of vertical flashes, almost imperceptible at first, that aligned across several frames. These flashes seemed to originate not from natural atmospheric phenomena but from a deliberate source, as if a device had been activated high in orbit. When the footage was reviewed a week later, segments had been altered. Frames that initially showed the streaks were replaced with static. No explanation was provided. Some researchers speculated equipment malfunction, while others whispered about a coordinated cover-up, though publicly no confirmation existed. By the following day, more reports surfaced of interference affecting satellites and deep space observation stations. A series of classified notices, discovered later through leaked internal emails, mentioned anomalous upper atmosphere transmissions during the Aurora event. These transmissions appeared to emanate from a satellite that had been decommissioned years prior. Its orbit had long since been altered, its official record erased from public logs. Yet telemetry indicated that the satellite had been active that night. Who had reactivated it, and for what purpose, remained unanswered. Whitman's encrypted transmissions suggested he had located the same satellite feed hours before disappearing, implying a direct connection between his knowledge and the phenomena. In the days that followed, investigative journalists attempted to piece together the events. Local news in northern states reported on minor technological malfunctions, while national media focused solely on the Aurora's visual spectacle. Few noticed or dared to report the anomalies in satellite operations, the rhythmic pulses captured by civilians, or the sudden disappearance of an employee with high-level clearance. Whitman's colleagues spoke cautiously. Some admitted they had been warned not to discuss the matter. Internal memos leaked later referenced sensitive upper atmosphere experiments and data acquisition anomalies, yet no public explanation ever emerged. As public attention waned, a small, dedicated group of independent researchers began compiling the evidence. They found that every abnormal incident from radio pulses to compass disruptions occurred along a loosely defined arc spanning from Alaska through northern Canada down into the upper Midwest. Mapping these points revealed a pattern. The arc closely mirrored the orbital path of the decommissioned satellite, suggesting intentional activity rather than natural randomness. The timing of each event coincided almost perfectly with solar flare activity, yet analysis showed deviations that could not be explained by known geomagnetic behavior. Then came the anonymous tip, a digital file sent to a secure forum frequented by atmospheric and satellite enthusiasts, contained partial logs from Whitman's workstation. Encrypted and fragmented, the data implied that an undisclosed entity had been conducting experiments manipulating the ionosphere. The document referenced a program called Aurora Directive, describing activities that involved clandestine satellite reactivation, signal interception, and observation of civilian electronics. Analysts who attempted to decode the files reported an immediate rise in cyber intrusion attempts on their own systems, suggesting that someone or something was actively monitoring the investigation. The pattern suggested intentional suppression, as though the Aurora had been not merely a spectacle, but a message. Across the Midwest, local law enforcement continued to receive calls from citizens reporting anomalies. In Grand Marais, Minnesota, a small fishing town along Lake Superior, several residents noted that the Aurora seemed to hover over the lake for several minutes, pulsating in a manner that left shadows dancing on the ice even before sunrise. Police initially dismissed these reports as mass hysteria. However, multiple independent witnesses corroborated the events, all describing the same rhythm of light, aligning with the pulse intervals reported by amateur radio operators days earlier. As the investigation deepened, patterns of human behavior also emerged. Civilians who reported anomalies began to experience subtle, unexplained consequences. Phones and computers malfunctioned in strange ways, personal items were misplaced in repetitive patterns, and in at least one case, an individual reported losing several hours without recollection. While nothing overtly criminal had occurred, the incidents painted a picture of manipulation, intrusion, and subtle control. Some researchers hypothesized that the Aurora and the satellite activity may have been a form of long-range experimentation in information or signal control. Whether this was a civilian experiment, government-sanctioned, or entirely rogue remained unknown. Meanwhile, Attempts to locate Whitman intensified. His last known movements placed him near a small private data center in Minneapolis that specialized in satellite telemetry. Security footage revealed him entering the facility late in the evening on the night of the aurora, carrying only a laptop and a briefcase. What happened after he entered remains a mystery. Employees at the facility later reported seeing unusual activity on monitoring screens, streams of coded signals that were not consistent with any known protocols. By morning, Whitman had vanished, leaving no trace, and the facility officially denied that any anomalies had occurred. A subtle but chilling note appeared in the digital logs, left perhaps by Whitman himself. If this reaches you, understand they are watching. The aurora knows. At the same time, additional civilians reported strange occurrences in locations far from the northern lights. In Denver, Colorado, technicians at a radio observatory recorded faint, repeating pulses at the same 5-second interval noted elsewhere. In Chicago, a power grid substation reported temporary voltage fluctuations coinciding with auroral peaks hundreds of miles away. Analysts began theorizing a network effect, a connection between the aurora, satellite activity, and terrestrial technology. The deeper the pattern was traced, the more it seemed that the aurora was both a visual phenomenon and a medium of influence, something that could interact with devices, networks, and potentially human behavior. Weeks passed. Media attention shifted to other events. The aurora faded from headlines, and Whitman remained missing. Yet, independent researchers continued to examine residual data. Small discrepancies in public satellite telemetry suggested repeated manipulations in orbital paths, as though someone had been actively controlling a satellite array. The decommissioned satellite, the source of the initial anomalies, appeared to have been transmitting information back to undisclosed ground stations at irregular intervals. Attempts to track these stations revealed that some were mobile, camouflaged in remote areas of northern Minnesota and Wisconsin. The implications were clear. A shadow operation had taken place, and the aurora had been the cover, the medium, and the message all at once. Then came the discovery of the final piece, a video posted anonymously to a private server. Grainy yet unmistakable, it depicted the aurora folding inward over a remote lake in northern Minnesota. A narrow beam of light, almost imperceptible, descended from the sky into the water. The clip lasted 12 seconds before abruptly cutting off. Experts analyzing the footage noted electromagnetic interference captured in the frame, coinciding with the same rhythmic pulses present across all reports. When cross-referenced with Whitman's partial files, it suggested the beam was intentional and active experiment rather than a natural effect. Yet its purpose remained unknowable. The sender of the video disappeared from the server soon after posting. Attempts to trace them led only to encrypted dead ends. Despite the growing evidence, no official explanation was ever provided. Agencies denied any extraordinary activity, public statements emphasized the aurora's natural causes, and missing person reports were quietly archived. For those following the anomalies, it became increasingly clear that this was more than a solar event, more than a spectacle. It was a controlled, deliberate experiment, its reach spanning satellites, technology, and possibly human awareness. Whitman's disappearance remained central to the puzzle, a human link to a network of unseen operators. No one knew who or what had orchestrated it, nor what the ultimate goal had been. Months later, researchers monitoring signal activity detected a faint recurrence of the original pulse, this time across oceanic monitoring stations. The 5-second interval repeated at a near imperceptible volume, as if echoing through the planet's electromagnetic field. Attempts to locate the source returned coordinates in the Arctic Circle, near an uninhabited research outpost. Investigators who traveled to the location found only abandoned equipment and frozen terrain. Files were encrypted beyond recovery, and environmental data suggested the site had been tampered with deliberately to erase traces of activity. A single handwritten note, left behind in a lab notebook, read, "Do not follow the light. To this day, the aurora remains a visual marvel visible across northern skies. But for those who observed it that night, for the families of the missing, for the researchers who traced the anomalies, it is more than a display. It is a question, a warning, a signal whose meaning remains tantalizingly out of reach. Each pulse, each strange reading, each disappearance hints at something larger, something operating just beyond observation. Whether it is a human experiment, a rogue operation, or an unknown force interacting with our planet, no one knows. And yet, late at night, when the northern sky glows in shades of green, violet, and red, some people still listen. They wait, they measure, and they wonder if the next aurora will answer or call back. The red glow that appeared over the northern United States that night may have been the first observable signal. But signals require receivers, and some are still waiting for the reply. And in that waiting, in the silence that stretches across frozen lakes and dark observatories, the question remains: who or what is watching, and when will it act again? No conclusion has ever been reached. No explanation has ever satisfied. And so, the mystery remains open, unresolved, and quietly unfolding every time the northern lights illuminate the sky. The sky has spoken once, in red and green, in pulses and hidden patterns, in signals coded for eyes that may never see. And all that is left is the waiting, the observing, the awareness that somewhere beyond sight, something continues. And perhaps when it returns, the world will understand, or perhaps it will remain, as it always has, a question without an answer.